Practice session 1, part 1, drilling down, habits of the creative mind, page 87. So this practice session is meant to help you practice. It's a practice session, right? So it's meant to help you practice that extraordinary research that Miller and Jurecic discuss in On Going Down the Rabbit Hole, right? So we're trying to artify or make special the process of our research. So not just doing the normal ordinary research where we just skim the surface of something, but we want to really drill down and try to find different things that catch our interest related to this topic and go down this metaphorical rabbit hole of research, following that white rabbit, and the white rabbit is a metaphor for the thing that catches our interest, right? So let me read through this. I want to make sure that we're all clear on what this practice session entails. So let me read this, the prompt right here. Carefully read and complete practice session part 1, drilling down. Habits of the Creative Mind, page 87. Do exactly what Miller and Jurecic direct in this activity, including spending the specified amount of time. The purpose of this activity is to practice doing artful, special, and extraordinary research the way that Miller and Jurecic explain in On Going Down the Rabbit Hole. This is the type of research we want to do for Major Essay Project 2 and the annotated bibliography. So again, the annotated bibliography is meant to help us with the research for Major Essay Project 2. After you spend at least an hour researching Ellen Dissanayake, you will spend at least 30 minutes writing about your experience. Use the questions in the practice session to help with your written reflection. Post your written reflection to this discussion board and then respond to at least 2 other colleagues' posts. Did you make any similar discoveries to your colleagues? What did you learn in this process? How might this help with the extraordinary research we want to complete in Major Essay Project 2 and the annotated bibliography? And of course, if a post has more than 2 replies, find one that doesn't have any replies yet. Just a note, I decided to do things a little differently with this discussion board. Rather than having one single discussion board for the entire class, I've organized you guys into groups. So the class is split into 3 different groups, so that will make it a little bit more manageable. It won't be this big giant wall of words that can be pretty difficult to sift through. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at the practice session itself. I want to make sure that we're all clear on this. So if you don't have your book out or your electronic version of your book pulled up, you want to do that. But I have my electronic version pulled up here. Practice session 1, part 1, drilling down. So the habits that this is meant to help us explore or to kind of foster our exploring, questioning, and working deliberately. And the activities involved in this are note-taking, reading, and researching. So the first step, type Ellen Dissanayake into the Google search engine. Press enter. Everyone who does this at the same time is likely to get very similar results. We can call this ordinary research. If you click on the Wikipedia entry for Dissanayake, you'll find yourself on a page that provides a thumbnail sketch of the author and her work. Again, in gaining this foothold on Dissanayake's work, you'll be doing what any ordinary researcher starting out would do. It's what you do next that matters. Choose one of Dissanayake's work that you found online and read it. So just a side note, you should be able to find some essays that Dissanayake has written. You should be able to find some excerpts from some of the books that she's written. So make sure that you're looking for a text that she wrote herself. So there should be things that you can find online. So you're just going to need to do a little bit of research there. You can use the Wikipedia to kind of help you and see like, oh, she wrote this book. Let me see if I can find that online. Or she wrote this essay. Let me see if I can find that online. So you're going to need to be active in this situation here. Okay, let's continue. Your next task is to make your research into this researcher of the extraordinary. We composed that last sentence with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland in mind, so they're being a little cheeky here. Set aside at least 1 hour for exploratory research. Side note, it's important that you set aside this amount of time. So again, this is why in my announcement, my announcement on Wednesday, I say don't put it off till the end, because you're just not going to have enough time, and you need to dedicate the time to do this thoroughly. So set aside at least an hour for exploratory research. So you can do it more than 1 hour, but at least an hour. Begin by choosing a phrase, a quotation, a reference, or a footnote from the Dissanayake work you read, and then do another Google search. So when they say this, it means, whatever Dissanayake work that you found online that you were reading. So you're going to identify a phrase that catches your interest, or maybe there's a specific quotation, or maybe there's a reference to another work, something that Dissanayake is referencing or quoting from herself, or maybe there's a footnote that is some sort of reference or an explanation to some idea that you think is really interesting. So you're going to do a Google search of that. So if it is a quotation or a phrase, you'll just go to your Google search, and you'll type it in, whatever it is, right? So, and then Google it. Read 2 or more of the recommended links. Okay, so when your Google search comes up, you're going to look and see that you're going to read 2 or more of those recommended links. Then choose a phrase, a quotation, a reference, or a footnote from the second set of works and do another Google search. So you're going to repeat this process, but now you're doing it with one of the works that your initial search led you to. So this one now doesn't need to be something written by Dissanayake. It might be about her work, or it might be something kind of completely different, just depending. The point is to follow the white rabbit, the thing that's catching your interest, to just keep doing this and seeing where it takes you. And so repeat. So you're going to do this again multiple times with just following these little breadcrumbs of things that you think are interesting. And this might lead somewhere completely unrelated to where you started off. But that's the whole point of going down a rabbit hole, finding these things, these interesting pathways, and just kind of getting lost in them for a little bit, just following your curiosity, the questions that arise for you, trying to come up with answers to these things. And repeat again until you've burrowed down to an insight or a question that you yourself find extraordinary. Okay, so something that you think is extraordinary, beyond ordinary. We call this process, where you move from one linked source to the next, drilling down. Spend at least 30 minutes reflecting on this process. As you drill down in your research, beginning with your first search about Dissanayake and ending with an extraordinary insight or question, how did you distinguish between ordinary, meaning mundane or everyday, and extraordinary, meaning not mundane, meaning exciting, interesting, out of the ordinary, moments of discovery? What choices yielded genuine surprises? So were you surprised by any of the things that you found? Begin a list of useful strategies to include in your repertoire or toolbox as a curious researcher. A list you can add to as you continue to practice drilling down. So the whole point of doing this activity is to practice this concept of drilling down, or making your research extraordinary, not just skimming on the surface. Skimming on the surface is just doing one simple Google search and just clicking on the first thing you find. But we're moving beyond that. We want to drill down and really follow the white rabbit to see where it might lead us, right? And so white rabbit is the metaphor for the thing that catches our interest. We want to follow that thing. So again, that's why it's important to set aside at least 1 hour where you can actually get lost a little bit, right? To actually see where this takes you. So I'm going to recommend that you do your best to put yourself in a distraction-free environment as best as you can. So maybe put your phone away. I would recommend not listening to music because that can kind of distract you, but at the very least, just making sure that you can focus on this for at least an hour of research, and then you're going to spend 30 minutes of reflection, right? So spend at least 30 minutes reflecting on this process. And that is what you're going to post to the discussion board, okay? Your reflection. Now, in your responses to your colleagues, you're going to want to pay attention to any similar connections, maybe, or if something came up where you think that that is really interesting in your colleagues' discovery, you might point that out. If you have questions for them, ask those questions. Think about how this is going to help us with our research for major essay project 2, okay? Well, if you have any questions about this, please let me know. Otherwise, have fun drilling down. Get lost in that rabbit hole, y'all.